Hi everyone, my name is Abigail Shannon, and today I'm going to talk to y'all about the epic poem that is Beowulf. Now, I read this about 10 years ago when I was in high school, and I really loved it because it stood out to me from the regular required reading. It felt very different. So I reread it for this project, and it still held up. And I'm really excited to dive a little deeper into this and share that with you guys. So obviously the title of our work is Beowulf. That is also the title character in the story. Beowulf is a hero. He's the hero of the Geats, which is modern day Sweden. Um, and he essentially sails to aid the king of Hrothgar of the Danes. Now, this king has discovered within his mead hall, which is essentially a communal eating area, a giant cannibalistic monster called Grendel. And so he calls upon Beowulf and says, "Hey, I need you to get rid of this guy. He's causing a mess." So Beowulf does exactly that. Um, he defeats this monster, bare knuckles. Um, and the next day, Grendel's mom comes by and says, "What have you done? That was my son, uh, seeking revenge." And Beowulf then defeats her as well. Now, that is essentially Act 1 of the book. The second act is Beowulf much older. It's been 50 years. He's been this wonderful king. But all of a sudden, a dragon comes in and starts destroying his kingdom and steals his gold. And Beowulf must defeat this dragon in order to save his life and his kingdom and his people. But unfortunately, and spoiler alert, he does pass away in the process. The dragon does as well. But the story does end with the death of the title character. Now, the writer of this story is unknown um, because this is very old and has been decided that this was probably an oral story well before it was written down. Um, Due to that, we also don't know when it was originally created. It is believed to be between 500 and 1000 BCE because it relies heavily on Anglo-Saxon Christian beliefs, which are pretty popular around that area in Old England. Now, the story doesn't take place in England, it takes place in like modern day Sweden, but it does rely on those themes so heavily, that's where it's believed to be from. Now, you can read Beowulf anywhere. You can get it from the library right now, you can look it up on the internet. But the oldest known copy resides in the British Library on some cotton manuscripts. And fun fact, there was actually a fire hundreds of years ago where these copies almost were lost to the world. But a librarian went back in and said, "No, I need those," and risked his life to save it. When we talk about the cultural context of this story, we really need to look at Anglo-Saxon England and medieval England. There is heavy, heavy influences within this poem from that time period, um, where we see honor, courage, and loyalty being presented. In order to be a good leader, you can't just say you're a good leader. You do have to prove it through something. And to them, it was honoring the people and having courage and being loyal to your kingdom. When we think about the cultural context of epic poems and writings, similar to the Odyssey, which is also another epic, we see these like larger than life figures reflecting some sort of theme. Now, I'm not saying Beowulf is untrue, but based on how we know the world today, it's highly likely that Beowulf's just a parable. Um, but I'm not going to say that it's not true. But it's important to know that this story's main theme running through it is strength has value and only has value if it's accompanied by being a good person, being loyal, having a good following, and being an honorable person with courage. When we move forward through time and we look at the contemporary significance of this story, Beowulf influences a lot, uh, especially thematically in terms of like the location. It's very Norse mythology based, where we see, Skyrim and like God of War with these mythological figures and, you know, locations. When we're talking about the themes with that loyalty and courage and being a good leader, a lot of fantasy books and movies and games have those, like Lord of the Rings. When it comes to modern society and how we function, I think that's still very uh, heavily influenced today. I mean, we look to courageous leaders like first responders and doctors and military, to kind of lead our society because, supposedly they're good people and they're choosing to do something so great because of the loyalty they have to, their community. We also see this in, modern superheroes like Captain America or even like sports. But essentially, that just shows our needs and values as a community and as a society and as the world that, um, we need leadership, through doing things, showing us that you are a good leader, not just saying it, through the service of community and the strength that that leader provides, whether that may be physical, like Beowulf, or mental or emotional. And I think it's clear through this epic that Beowulf has all three. Um, and while he can admit wrongs, he does replace those wrongs with a right doing for his people. And then these are my works cited. Thank you so much for listening.